There you go. All set.
Well, we still have 20 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Awkward pause. Okay, I would like to call the meeting of the Wellfleet School Committee to order. It is 5:30. And first of all, I'd like to see if there are any agenda changes. Brooke, anything you know of? Anybody else? Okay, and I would like to start the meeting by opening it to public comment, citizens speak. Anybody wish to say anything? Any members wish to say anything? Jill, are you waving or?
No.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we will start with the chair report, and it's brief. First of all, Jill, Laura, and I were privileged to attend the Wellfleet School Elementary School opening day ceremony, and what an inspiring and positive experience for us, but more importantly for the children and families and staff. Students were clearly excited, eager to start, happy to be back. The staff was welcoming, enthusiastic, and Mary Beth was, Mary Beth, warm, vital, inspirational. She reminded me as she was leaving the building with the staff coming out behind her, just kind of like a coach of a winning team coming out to get the trophy. We're so lucky here in Wellfleet, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. The other item of interest was yesterday, the chairs of the Nauset School Committees attended a webinar on the topics of citizens speak and conflict of interest given by attorney Peter Sumner. Was one of those webinars where the more I felt that I was learning, the more I felt I had to learn more. I don't know what you call that. There has to be a term. Several issues were discussed and clarified, and one positive outcome was the agreement that several of our policies were in need of updating and perhaps some tweaking, and perhaps some effort to make our policies more consistent across the board. And I know that the policy committee under Ann Crozier and with Betsy's amazing help and perseverance, I know that has been started, and it's something that they've been working on, I would say, for the last 6 years, as far as I know anyway. Ann Crozier, who heads our policy committee, will take the lead with her committee to begin that process. And also, at this point, it's safe to assume that our Wellfleet Elementary School Committee meetings will continue to be remote until further notice. Again, as a reminder, our meetings are now at 5:30. On the second Tuesday of the month. We made that change because we have many younger working members on the school committee now, to say nothing of the older working members. So I want to thank you all for the time and your attention, and we will move on to the superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So welcome back to the new school year. We're thrilled to be back in the classrooms and the hallways and out on the fields as I watch out my windows and I see all those middle school children running around and playing games. And it's just, it just fills the soul. So I would have to agree, Martha, with everything you're saying. When you see those buildings fill up again, there's just something really magical and really special about it. So we've wrapped up our first couple of days back. Our staff began their time back. We did a hybrid meeting the first morning. And a special thank you to our chairs who all sent us either quotes or sent messages. Martha sent a lovely little video clip that we were able to include in our back to school montage. Dr. Millen just did a fabulous job of pulling it all together to the song Happy, which is, I think, pretty much exactly how we all felt that first day. We were just happy to be back. So we did a couple of different presentations. Dr. Millen did a presentation. I did a wrap-up presentation, and then our staff went into their buildings and did, of course, all the great things that they do. So thank you to all the staff. Thank you to our food services folks. Thank you to our custodians for making sure that our buildings were ready. They did a fabulous job. And I think that the nice thing too, I think that with a couple of the parts that Dr. Millen spoke of was the importance of making sure that we're building our relationships here as we come back in. And we'd like to say post-COVID, but I think that would be just a little presumptuous because we're not really there yet. So I think you'll see us focus, and she's going to speak to that tonight, on the social emotional learning component and reconnecting with our students, reconnecting with each other, reconnecting with ourselves. So you'll see us put a push on that. The student days, of course, they're back. They've started. They're happy to be back in, exactly, Martha, as you had said, and it doesn't matter what building you're in, the kids are happy to be back in. So we're reestablishing routines. We've got exciting things that we've got planned for them. And we were just off to a great start. So thank you to the entire district. A little note with regards to bus information. It was interesting to see the Governor Baker yesterday call up the guard to help out with buses. We are still short of bus drivers, even in Nauset. And so, you know, at a time when we'd like to be doing all kinds of different things in terms of programs or additions here or there, the truth is, until we have that full contingent for our bus drivers, we're still a little bit at deficit in terms of what we can do. So it's one of those things that I think we're going to have to be really, really flexible with. We know that the bus company is working overtime. Lori and Giovanna have been working overtime on this, and we thank you for all of your efforts with that too. So just kind of keep that in mind right now. We're still working to try to build the full capacity, but we are not there yet. In terms of communication, I just wanted to touch base on two things here. And I did want to keep my piece shorter tonight because I know Dr. Millen's is going to be much longer. So there's every reason why my own report is short tonight. Communication website. I think there's a certain level of frustration with our current website. And so we're looking at what we can do to revamp it. Initially, we thought we could maybe tweak it or go through and cleanse it, and then I think we got to a point where we said, you know what, it's just not worth our time. We're going to start to rebuild a new one. And so we're going to start at the beginning because there's just too much work to do on the one that's currently in place. So we're going to start at the beginning. Dr. Millen is going to take the lead on that. We have somebody who will be working closely with her. We've already connected with some of our offsite vendors to see about them coming in to lay out what they can provide for us that we can work with. You'll see us reach out to folks and asking them for what they see as priorities on the website as we start to build this. The truth is, it normally takes anywhere from 8 months to a year, even up to 18 months to build a really solid school district website. But as I said to Dr. Millen, we have to start somewhere. So let's start this now and let's start to build it. And hopefully with the goal that by the year's end, we'll be ready to roll it out. We're hoping to have a mock-up sometime around Christmas time or somewhere in the month of December. But we'll keep you posted and let you know how things are going. The other thing we want to just mention quickly too is that we are going to start to take advantage of the Twitter platform. You'll see that by the first part of October, we will have Twitter accounts for our central office, particularly for the Office of the Superintendent and the Office of the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And then we'll be rolling out a Twitter account for each school. And one of the things that I think I like about Twitter is that it's fast, it's instant, it's there. For example, you know, when I go to close schools, for example, in wintertime, Normally I make the decision, I make the calls, and the first thing I do is tweet it out. So you do find that you tend to have a number of high school students following you to see if the schools are going to be closed when the snow starts to come. But it's just a nice way of getting information out there quickly. We don't do anything like advertise sales or bake sales or stuff like that, or every single game that's going to be across the district, but probably a football game, the Thanksgiving football game, or some of those key milestone moments. You'll see us post something on that. So hopefully by about mid-October, you'll start to see us sending various tweets out to our communities. So we're excited about that too. So that's it in what's new in our world. I think that would be an understatement, Dr. Millen, of what's new in our world, but I think those are the key salient points to push out tonight before we go to your work. Any questions for me?
Actually, I do. I have one. I just wondered, will the existing website be up and running until the new one is okay? Good.
Yeah.
Good to know.
That would, and you'll see us still even make some changes to the current website. We're not just leaving it alone and not doing anything. You're still going to see us post things on there and that kind of thing. So it'll still be an active website. It's just that it's pretty cluttered, and I think sometimes it can be difficult for the user to navigate. So we're hoping to bring OnStream a little bit easier, user-friendly website. That's our goal.
Great.
Other questions? No, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and thanks to everyone for your support. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for putting this in writing so we could read it ahead of time. It's very helpful.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. That's great. Thank you.
And we are ready for our principal's report.
Yeah, and Martha, thank you so much for those kind words, relative to opening. It was great to have our opening ceremony again. We haven't had an opening or a closing ceremony in some time, so it was great to all be together. On the report, just a couple of, one is a correction and the rest will be just additions. So under the academic, the assessment piece, the second sentence says that we will also be administering the day's assessment. We had met with the iReady component, and iReady reading component includes comprehension, so we no longer need to use the day's assessment. So I just wanted you to cross that out, that we will not be using the day's assessment due to our iReady reading assessment will cover that. Under our after-school childcare, well, we were able to finally recruit a program aide, and that is Ashley Rowell. Ashley is a parent of one of our students, and she also is a playground recess monitor, so she's very eager to join her other recess and lunch monitor friend, Shelley, by becoming the program aide. Both of those ladies are in our after-school program along with Andy Havens. So with that being said, we were able to welcome 13 more students. So we have a total of 39 students every day. And that is about 35% of our student population.
Excellent.
And a couple other things. Under curriculum night, the classroom teachers will be holding virtual class meetings. And we sent out just yesterday the invitation to parents. And Mr. Andrew Staker, our technology guru, he has put a page together that will go live. Our open house is this Thursday. So it will go live to anyone who logs into the Wellfleet website and goes to the specialist page. So it'll be recordings from me, from all the specialists, OT, PT, special education, nurse, etc. And he also, I've been sending him pictures of all the various places within the school, not only classrooms, but the kitchen, the cafeteria, the OT, PT space, etc. So that we'll have a montage of what the building looks like on the inside, because we have 22 new kindergartners. Many of them do have siblings in the building, so those parents do or are aware of or familiar with the building. But we have new teachers, so classrooms have changed, grade level classrooms have changed, and they all look so beautiful at the start of the school year. So I'm sending him a plethora of pictures. So again, on that piece, that's the specialist part of the webpage, we'll have a montage of pictures of the inside of the building. And then the last thing is we had been part of the town's green grant, and they had gone with Rise Engineering to put in the municipal buildings an energy management system, and ours is complete. So I wanted to let you know that that is done, and they estimate our energy savings cost per year to be just over $5,100. So that's good. Yeah. Any questions for me? Oh, boy.
Betsy?
Hi, thank you, Martha. I'm just noting at the sizes of the classrooms, and I'm noting that we have a kindergarten at size 22. And I'm just wondering how we're dealing with that.
So there is a full-time educational assistant in there. And I also have another educational assistant that will be in there working with a special education student. And she should be starting at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. And then I also have other educational assistants rotating in throughout the day.
Thank you. And Laura?
I was looking at the all-school meeting, the second, mark your calendars. Is that June 5th, 2020?
I'm sorry, where are you?
It's page 1 of 3, the last sentence.
Oh,
Where the
that
rest-
is the theme parade.
Right, so it's 2020?
Oh, should be 2022. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Typo.
Yeah, I just was like wondering if I was going crazy.
We're going back in time.
Yeah, well, I can't figure out the years anymore, so. Also follow up on Betsy's, the kindergarten. So at this point, that's just, it's, you'll keep with having the aides, no talk of splitting the class or,
Not at this point, no.
okay,
If we were creeping up to 24, I'd say we really need to split this. So the
Okay.
way the policy reads is at 25 is when you would split. But once we get to 24, I start looking. So there are, and I was speaking with the classroom teacher today about even when they come together for whole groups, and she has a full-time ed assistant who was the remote kindergarten teacher last year, and she's trained in tools of the mind, just split the class, so that you're doing the same activity. She's overseeing one, and then you can switch.
okay.
So that, it's just 11 and 11 as opposed to the 22.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Brooke? I'm just so you all know, I have no favorites. I'm going in order on my screen. So.
I just want to thank Wellfleet for inviting Dr. Millen and I for lunch on the first day. We traveled around to all of the schools that morning once we were done the first session, and we ended our time at Wellfleet, and we had a wonderful lunch and just a wonderful opportunity to connect with people. So special thanks to Wellfleet. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to let you know, I hired Tanya Felix. She has a food truck at the end of the pier. And so I purchased lunch for everybody on the first day. So I recruited Tanya to provide the lunch, and she did a fabulous spread. It was gorgeous. She even brought flowers for the table. So thank you, Brooke.
And Liberty, you're muted. Yeah.
I know. Thanks. It's a calendar question, but I guess I'm just reading Monday, October 11th is Columbus Day. And I know a lot of schools and districts have started to change over to Indigenous Peoples Day. And I'm not sure if that's something that we could do at the school or district level, or if we have to wait until it's state level. But I know like our district at CES has done it and many schools have. So, I'm not sure what that would take or where that discussion goes, but.
Thank you. It's definitely on our radar, Liberty. So I'd want you to know that we've had some preliminary discussions on that as well. Thank you for bringing it up.
Any other questions? Okay, the next thing on the agenda, I'm sorry, is a mystery to me. It says meeting structure, and I know that I must have discussed this with Brooke, but I have no idea. I have no recollection of it. Was it maybe just to say that we were on Zoom?
I think that's exactly what it was. I think actually you covered this in your, I think it was that we were doing the Zoom, and just a reminder of the exactly what you did on your chair's report is I think what you were thinking to do here. So the 5:30, the Tuesday, that's all it was, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we are moving on to the playground committee. And I am wondering if Mary Beth, would you like to speak to that?
I would, thank you. So we now have a total of 15 stakeholders on our playground committee, and they are just so eager and very willing to split up into 2 different subgroups. And what should be in your packet this week is, this month, is the seeking approval from the PTA chairperson, president, along with her subcommittee that would be seeking donations from stakeholders. So tomorrow is the next CPC meeting. Lisa Holmes will be attending that. It's at 9:30 in the morning, and it is a Zoom meeting. And we are hoping, I've been working with Giovanna about, do we complete an RFP, a request for proposal, or do we do a request for qualifications? Since we do need somebody to design a playground as well as build the playground. So I had reached out to the town administrator and the assistant town administrator seeking both of those documents so that we can look at them and see which one is appropriate to complete. And they don't have an RFQ, the request for qualifications. They do have an RFP. So that was sent to me yesterday. And so I'm going to meet with Giovanna so that we can talk about how we're going to sort of navigate that and complete it and have that submitted. I will be meeting with the 2 subcommittees separately on September 20th. One is the supporting letter that has been put together. So I created an Excel spreadsheet with various stakeholders in Wellfleet, their addresses, their telephone numbers, and their emails, so that we'll be able to do a mass mailing of those letters seeking they to write a letter that is simply saying that they are in support of a new playground at the school. And then the other committee, I'm meeting with them about 2 hours after, and that is the committee that's seeking donations. And I want to go through that spreadsheet with that group as well. And then we'll figure out how are we going to do these mass mailings, who can be part of that so that we can get those out, determine who on that Excel spreadsheet we would like to send those to, etc. The other thing too is that one of our committee members, Lisa Holmes, she had sent an email out to the whole committee just yesterday saying that in our donation letter that we should perhaps put in there something that there would be a plaque perhaps at the playground, just delineating people who did contribute some funding, donating to the playground build. So that will have to be added into the letter. And so I was going to wait until I met with the team, the committee, so that we can determine what it is that they would like to do. They talked a little bit about bricks. They talked about a plaque, and we'll see what people have come to that they would like to do.
Are there any questions from Mary Beth at this point? Jill?
The Truro playground that's by the library and behind the recreational building, they have something kind of special and unique where it could be private people, it could be businesses, but people purchased a tile and then painted it or did something that lasts. So it's very decorative. So it's children's art, it's artists' art. I don't know how much it cost initially for people to buy a tile, but that was a wonderful way of raising money towards that playground. And it was pretty awesome when I visited that playground. You know, some of the children who had decorated tiles are 20 to 30 years old now. It's pretty cool.
Is that
But
Puma Park?
Sorry?
Is that Puma Park?
Puma Park, yeah.
Thank you, Jill.
And Betsy.
In terms of collecting donations, I don't know if this is a possibility, but it sure is easy to donate digitally these days. So I'm not sure if you would be able to set up like a Venmo account or something like that, but the easier it is for people to donate, including myself, I would just, I don't know if you can look into that, if it's actually legal for the school to do it that way, but.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I think what we need at this point is our approval for this fundraising letter that was included in your packet to go out. It's this piece of fundraising that we're wanting to approve or not approve. I don't mean to push you in any direction. So if there's no more discussion, is anybody ready to so move?
I
Jill?
move that we approve the fundraising letter gratefully.
Thank you. And second, Laura? Thank you. All those in favor? Raise your hand. I see you all, you're all together on my screen. It's so cute. Okay. And Arlen, you have that?
Thank you very, very much. And again, we'll probably add into that. We'll look into a digital way to make a donation, as well as how we will recognize folks who do donate. So I'll be able to keep you updated on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Robin Millen, Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. I enjoyed listening to all those intros and all the information that's already come along. I built a playground in my previous job, so I understand the process that Mary Beth is going through. So it's a great process, but it's a long haul. So I appreciate all the efforts. Let me know if you want me to write you a letter as well. I'd be happy to do that on my behalf. So I am Robin Millen. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and I was asked to come here today to bring forth 3 items. So yes, it will take a little while for me to get through those items. And I was saying to the earlier committee that I talked to in my previous position, we always had like this award as to who could go the most efficient and the fastest and who could be the most charismatic and the most interesting. I never got the fast award. So there you go, but I will try to do my best so not to keep you too long, but it is really important. The curriculum instruction and assessment is a lot of what we do in schools. So there is a lot of information to share with you tonight. So I am going to share my screen, I hope. Let's go here. And if someone could show me a thumbs up that we are there, awesome. Okay. So I am going to start just by sharing with you some information about new teacher orientation. And give me 1 second, since you are such a small committee, I think I can see all of you on top of my other thing, but hold on a second. Cannot. So I will go this way, but so new teacher orientation. So it was very interesting because at new teacher orientation, we had about 25 new staff members at the event. It was instructional assistants or educational assistants and also new teaching, certified teaching staff. Brooke and I were also there, and we felt like we should be sitting in the audience and not necessarily hosting the event, but it is under my wing to host the event. But I do have to thank Ms. Sarah Miller, who is our administrative assistant here at Central Office. She really did a lion's share of helping me organize and bring this event to fruition in such a short amount of time, of me learning the ropes as well. When I say that we have new teachers in the district, it almost seems unfair to them. They are a highly talented bunch. Most of them have a lot of experience. I mean, many of them have worked for many years in the educational systems in places as far as New Orleans, Florida, and then a lot of them are actually NAWCET graduates themselves. They've come home to kind of raise their families and to work for our system, so that is good to know as well. Some of them were principals, some of them were directors in central office, and they've gone back into the classroom, so that's also really interesting. So it's really nice to be in that kind of learning environment where everybody has that excitement to really get back into the classroom and teach. There were a few brand new teachers as well. They'll also be doing an induction program with me over the year. And it was nice to have them kind of hear what all the other teachers, even though they're new to school, but not new to profession, to hear their excitement as well. So the overview is there on the screen. On August 31st, we all came together. We made introductions with the administrative team. The administrative team introduced the staff. I had the wonderful honor of introducing Mary Beth's staff. She was unable to make it, but it's funny because many of her staff actually came from Chatham. So it was nice to see my friends there as well. So introductions, the union came and they did the contract overview. At about midday on that first day, the mentors came and they were introduced to their mentees. At NAWCET Public Schools, all new teachers, no matter whether they're new to profession or not, are assigned a mentor. So they will have somebody there to kind of give them the ropes of what NAWCET Public Schools is like, how they go about, just different aspects of the different cultures and climates in the buildings. And then the new to profession teachers also have a mentor. They're assigned a little more of a mentor. They're assigned a full-time mentor with a little bit more hours of responsibility, but everybody gets a mentor if you are new to our system. Then they had lunch together. We had a wonderful lunch both days of our program, and Susan took care of us, and the director of food services, and we were all laughing, like we have to go to have lunch at the buildings every day if food is this good in each of the cafeterias. It was like delicious. So we had lunch, and then after lunch, we did a mentor and induction kind of overview, and then I have to thank all the department and the subject coordinators. They came from all the different buildings and they gave a curriculum overview for all the elementary teachers, middle school teachers, and high school teachers in their perspective curriculum, which was great because as I'm learning, yes, I can understand the curriculum, but I don't know it that well. So they were great and they were awesome. And I learned as much from them as the new teachers did. So then day two, it started at the building. So Mary Beth hosted her team and did an overview of the evaluation system and kind of how Wellfleet kind of works, what the first couple of days look like. Then they came back to the middle school. They met with the director of technology who went over the technologies in the district. Then they met with Director Buchanan, who is the director of student services, to go over things like IEPs and 504s and our district accommodation plans. And then they met with some other of our team to go over the Aspen training. And then I ended the induction and the new teacher orientation by going over the strategic plan with them. So it was a great 2 days, jam-packed, very, very warm in the middle school auditorium, but they held it out and they were so excited to be part of NAWCET. So I want to share on their behalf. Do you have any questions about new teacher orientation? Martha, you're going to have to help me because I can't see them all. I'm good. Getting a little ahead of myself here. Oh, hold on. Okay, let me back myself up here. Okay, so for me, I had this is the other part of the thing that presentation that Superintendent Clenchey asked me to share with you all. And basically it is about what we did over the summer and then how we laid out the plan for the school year to all of the educational teams and actually the entire support staff as well at opening day. So I just wanted you to all know that just like Superintendent Clenchey, I also have a 100-day entry plan. I basically have 3 objectives in that 100 days. Is I have what I'm calling my listening and learning tour. I'm really just trying to get together with as many people that I can and just really listen. That's why I've been attending all of your meetings, trying to get into anything that I can do public wise. You'll see my face on Zoom in some of the meetings as well, but I'm just really trying to listen and learn so that I can be the best support to the administrative staff and to the staff in general. I truly believe, as does Superintendent Clenchey, that we are in service to our buildings. It doesn't work the other way around. So I can only know how I can help support if I know how to do that. So I'm one of those people that is very visual. I like to hear and see and be a part of it. I've taken tours of all the buildings already. I did that before I even started in July. I've been back into all the buildings, but I'm really spending the time to listen and learn from everybody. Relationships is highly important to me. I'm a relational leader. I like to get to know people. I like to have them in. I like to go to meet them at their building spaces. I want to get to know the children. I plan on doing some shadowing of children at all the levels throughout their day, you know, in the cafeteria, in the gym, you know, in the classrooms, maybe even on the buses, not my favorite place, but maybe on the buses, that type of thing. I would also like to do some shadowing of our educators and see what their days look like from their eyes as well. So that's part of my objectives in the first 100 days. I also understand that this leadership team has had a lot of change. Change is often hard. It's a difficult word, but it's also sometimes difficult just for people. So I know Superintendent Clenchey spoke about this, but really a huge objective of ours is to make sure we're minimizing the impact of that transitional change. There's been a lot of CEO change, a lot of building leadership change, and again, a lot of change just in the world generally. So we want to make sure we're trying to minimize that impact. So this is kind of what it looks like, and this is, you know, a little much, but, you know, most of this I have done in the first part of the school year now, from July to August until now. I love data. I triangulate data. I've taken data from a lot of different places, both like assessment data, you know, accountability data, you know, building data, but also just anecdotal data, some qualitative data. I've done a lot of exploring. Superintendent Clenchey spoke about the website. I have taken down the entire curriculum and assessment website and put it back up to try to fix it. I've gotten some help from Director Callahan. She's helped me with that. But just exploring everything, observing, getting the communications, watching what's coming and going out of Parent Square, all of those things I've been doing. Obviously, I spoke about relationship building. I'll come back to that in a minute. Also going through the systems and the structures. And then the learning environments, watching the curriculum and the cultures and the climates in the buildings. But right now, this is my key priority because everybody's back. I want to make sure I'm talking to students and stakeholders, and I'll get to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So as this year has come on, and I've worked with the leadership team at Institute over the summer, we've had some pretty good and fast early learning and listening wins. The district is highly transparent. So it's really nice because it doesn't take a lot of unpacking to kind of see already where some of these things and supports can be provided. So right off the bat, we provided over the summer, the entire district leadership team went to something called the Deep Learning Facilitators Institute. It was a 3-day institute in August. It was a lot. So some of the administrators came in and came out. But it began a capacity building, a learning part of the professional development, which is part of your strategic plan, to understand what deep learning looks like. And it's a framework, and I'll talk more about it as the year goes on. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time today, but building that was a quick early win. And I was excited that all of the principals were willing to at least stick their toes into understanding it, because it is a really strong basis of your strategic plan. The other thing that came up was we enrolled all the new principals along with their mentors, which all new principals also have to have mentors, in a new program coming out of DESE, Department of Ed, which is a principals induction and mentoring professional learning network. And the reason why this is an early learning goal is not only does it provide professional development for our staff, and I will be joining them too, because a district administrator has to go along with them. But this particular network will be developing competencies for leadership teams across the state, specifically rooted in the anti-racism work and the equity work that we will be doing across the state, and particularly in our district. So we will be creating with DESE alongside of them another qualifier on our evaluation system as administrators that focuses on equity and anti-racism. So that was a nice early win to get us into that and get us enrolled in that. And I'll keep you updated along the year as that keeps rolling out. We have made some initial plans for an equity task force, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. I've had some nice connections with both stakeholders. Every single day, a teacher calls me and wants to get enrolled in the equity task force, and there is an idea for it, so I'll share that in a few minutes. We also did the Summer Institute, obviously, with the building leadership at that institute, we defined key levers, and we agreed upon 4 core value statements. Those key levers and those 4 key core value statements were communicated to the staff at convocation, and that's what I'd like to go to now. So usually curriculum instruction, when we start our school years, we go out, to convocation with the staff, and also, our first presentations with boards. And we usually just go right into the strategic plan and we say, hey, this is what we're going to focus on. This is what we're going to get done this year. This is how we're going to do it. However, it was very clear at Institute when we were working with the administrators that the strategic plan is a wonderful document. I'm telling you, it is why I'm here at Nassau Public Schools. It has every single thing that I would dream of as an educator to have in a strategic plan, and I'm excited to get going on it. However, it was written at a time prior to the pandemic, and I don't think any of us could have envisioned or expected or understood what was going to happen post the strategic plan in the last 18 months. So when we were working with the administrators, it became very, very clear that we needed to root ourselves somewhere. I know Superintendent Clenchey has talked about us having the sailing theme at Institute. We needed to find a keel, something that we could say was exactly where we were going to say all of our decisions were going to be based off of these things. And the administrative team was great. And they said, yes, we have to figure that out too. So we needed to build a solid base. Then we needed to leverage those strategic actions in order to hit the outcome, which is improve student outcomes for all NASIT students. And it's very important. When I say all, I mean all. So what we did first was we took value statements from a organization that the State Department of Ed is using called TNTP. And I presented them to the administrative team and said, let's look at these, let's see if this is something that we can work with. And after reading them, there was really no discussion. The administrative team was like, yep, we're good with this. So the first core value statement was essentially support and assume the best of and train all your stakeholders. And I'm just going to read the actual statement to you. I don't normally read while I present, but I want to make sure I share exactly what that means. So in this pandemic, it says everyone has done the best they know how to do in these unprecedented situations. We agree to thus assume the best of our students, our families, and our staff as we navigate this school year. We hope you will think about these things as well. In turn, we will ensure that we have a strong plan to provide training and support for all of our teachers, staff, and caregivers as we move forward navigating the positives and also the impacts that we may face. And everybody says post-COVID, but again, I think we're finding that we can't really say post-COVID, but as we move on in COVID. So that is our first value statement. Our second one that we agreed upon is that collaborate and then communicate clearly. So we recognize that families, and likely many of all you, are still feeling overwhelmed. So as we think about our work this year, we need to ensure that we have to plan to connect, to collaborate with, and communicate with our students, each other, the staff in general, and then the families as clearly as possible. We must make sure our decisions are clear and simple, and we also want to make sure that our decisions are transparent, that you know how we made the decision, who was consulted in those decisions, and then ensuring that we authentically partner with students and their families. The next value statement that we agreed upon is address the inequities head on. Now, I always say this, inequities in education have been here for a very long time. We've been working to overcome inequities and barriers in access for as long as I've been an educator, and that's 20 plus years, and even before that. But the barriers to quality instructional time that COVID has caused has exacerbated existing inequities and opportunity gaps in schools and systems. So social unrest and repeated incidents of racism, discrimination, and violence for many groups has also added to the trauma of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the state is recommending that we build back with an equity lens first and foremost, and we will do that at NASIT. We will base our approaches on creating equitable experiences and outcomes for all of our students, regardless of their race, identity, native language, learning and thinking differences, or other background characteristics. And the admin team has agreed to base our decisions and analyze our data through the lens of which inequities may be present. And we will share and provide supports on how we are planning to ensure that all students are successful this year. And the last value statement that we agreed upon is that grade level content is the academic priority. So our administration team has agreed that we are going to run every idea through a simple test. Will this help every student, regardless of their aspects of their identity, stay or get back to grade level? We will prioritize accelerating students' learning by accelerating all of our students' exposure to grade level appropriate content, while also addressing students' social and emotional needs. We want to make sure that we don't go back in time. We're going to be providing grade level standards at grade level times, but also making sure that we're assessing students so we can provide just-in-time learning when students need to access that curriculum appropriately. So these are our foundation, right? And they will be combined with the idea that our strategic plan is our guiding force in order to get to that improved learning outcomes for all. So after we rooted ourselves and we gave ourselves a keel, we decided that we would focus the work on only 4 key levers this year. It was really important for our staff. And again, this comes to the administrative team. They know their teams much better than we do at this point. And we're getting to know them very well, but they knew that there should be no new initiatives. Nothing should be coming out of the woodwork at anybody this year. We just want to go back to basics. We want to make sure people feel calm, secure, safe, and that way it will transpose over into our children that way. So the first one that we talked about was building relationships and positive relationships and prioritizing engagement. We said on behalf of the administrative team to all the teaching teams that if you take the time to build positive relationships, we are going to be totally supportive of that. So don't worry, if we come into your classroom and you are hosting a meeting and you're getting to know your kids, or you're doing a morning meeting to find out what's going on, great. It's going to be very important for children's social and emotional needs. We know there's positive relationships have an outcome in academic achievement. And we also have a clear strategic plan goal inside the 125 plan that says that every student will be able to identify at least one member of the staff that they can share both their successes, their celebrations, their concerns, and their worries with. So we're going to be working on just that one goal to build those positive relationships, and not only with our students, but between staff members and staff members, and also between us and our communities. So it's very important. It kind of ties into the community wellness. So the goal for all of us is to keep each other well. So not only physically well, but also emotionally well, and our mental health, and making sure we're taking care of each other. Principal Krause gave me a book, and basically a couple of weeks ago, and in the second chapter, it's called Permission to Feel. And in the second chapter, it says, we need to start asking ourselves, how are we feeling? How are you feeling? Not, hey, how are you? Like, I'm good, that kind of thing, but really watching our students, really understanding what the impact may have been or may be yet from COVID, knowing them, knowing their families, knowing what's going on. So making sure that we have a focus on wellness will be a really important part of our work this year. We have some innovative programs that we put into place, both at the middle school and other places, but we will also be strategically funding some other mental health and social-emotional programming at the elementaries and beyond, so that we can make sure we're taking care of our children. The third one is goals, progress, and feedback, and that feeds into that idea that we're not going back in time with academics. We need to understand where our students are. I have this problem with the idea of learning loss. Children can't lose something they never had. If they had it and they lost it, that's one thing. But if there's an instructional gap, it's just because we didn't have the time in learning that we expected over the last year and a half. So we need to really strategically use assessments to drive academic and grade level content. At the elementary school, it's easy. Mary Beth talked about it earlier. We have things like iReady, and we have other trigger assessments like DIBBLES. We have common assessments for ELA and mathematics. We will be using that and providing teams time to analyze that so they know where every child is, so that we can differentiate and personalize instruction and accelerate the learning. That accelerate learning, you'll hear a lot from DESE over the next year. That's really what they're using as a terminology, just to move our children forward and lessen the gaps that might be out there. And the last one is equitable learning. I spoke briefly about that earlier, but our focus will be as an equity lens first. So there has been a couple of things that we've been doing. At Institute, we had Dr. Khalees Warnham come and speak with the administrative team and start providing what we're calling a personal and team equity culture. And that will be done across the district. Dr. Warnham is a diversity coach. She does a lot of work with, she was originally with the Metco districts outside of Boston. She does a lot of work on diversity and equity across the state of Massachusetts. She is wonderful. She is approachable. She's good to understand. She puts it really into practical language. It's not threatening. It's not, you know, any of those things. And the administrative team loved her. So when we got done with her, we also scheduled her to come in September to run the all district PD day in September. She is also coming back in December to work with the administrative team again. She's coming back in January to work with the district education staff. And then she's coming back in May to work with the whole district staff again to kind of wrap up the year and know where we're going to go for next year. Also, be on the lookout in September and October, probably first part of October, for communication from me about an equity task force that we will be starting across the district. The idea is to run the task force inside the same strategic pillars that are created in the strategic plan, and to work through those teams in what we call an equity improvement cycle. It's a little complicated. I don't want to get into it too long here because I know I have another thing to share with you. But it is really important work that we do. And eventually it will go through an inquiry process and we'll identify some problems of practice if we have them, some barriers, and then we will create a plan within the strategic plan to overcome the equity concerns that we might have. Then for me, kind of in the background for the work that I'll do, there was some great work done originally by Mr. Gawley, and he had all the different content areas on a curriculum review cycle, which is pretty typical for work that curriculum directors do. It's not the only work we'll be doing, but I just lay it out to you because it really needs to come back. We need to get all of our content areas on a regular cycle, and those cycles need to be long-term cycles and short-term cycles. So they're iterative. I will be setting those cycles up so that they work in kind of like 4 to 5 year plans. But I will also be working with the instructional leadership team and the grade level teams and the department teams to work on shorter iterative cycles over curricular units and lessons. Everybody's talking about curriculum, and curriculum is kind of something that's set. Like we have to redefine what standards, what Massachusetts standards we think are top priority in all of our content areas. We have to create transfer goals for those because, believe it or not, if you look at the standards and you try to teach all the standards in 1 year, you're never going to get there. So the district has to decide what are our key priority standards. Then we have to create curricular units in order to support those. And we have to make sure the outcomes for all students are there. So in those short-term iterative cycles and those long-term iterative cycles, we'll also go through equity pauses. But to start the ELA pre-K to 5 curricular materials, we have to go through a program review. They've been working off of Wonders program for quite some time, and it hasn't gone through a program review and it hasn't gone through an equity pause. So we're going to be working on that with the ELA task force right off the bat. We're launching that. They have a 5-year plan. We're good. We're going to get that going, but it will be a lot of work. And the reason I tell you that is when they do a program review, they're going to find out whether or not the program is getting the outcomes that they want. And if it's not, then we might have to do a look at a new program. So that's always a budgetary issue. So I want to bring that forth with you. We will also be doing a measure and reflect cycle for writing pre-K through 12 immediately. It needs to be done. And that's writing not only in ELA, but that's writing across content areas and curricular subjects. And then shortly behind that, we need to put on the assessment of fine arts and world languages. World languages has just been newly approved in standards at the Massachusetts state level. So we have to make sure that program is aligned to the standards. And then we've got to get all the other ones on a content review cycle. So there will be a lot of good work. It's good to be here and I'm glad to do the work, but I just want you to know that that's got to start again. So any questions about that? Either shock them into silence.
I see Jill, Martha. go
Sorry,
ahead.
I was muted. Jill, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Robin, thank you for all this information and welcome aboard. It sounds like you've got some wonderful things going on. Just a comment, sharing information. I'm the delegate, well, I'm the board member on the Cape Cod Collaborative. I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but Dr. Bogdan of the Cape Cod Collaborative meets weekly, apparently, with curriculum directors. And I know that at our last meeting, he said that they've been working on developing coordinated collaborative opportunities and meeting remote challenges. So it's just information. I don't know if you're aware of the collaborative curriculum weekly director meetings.
Yes, so I wasn't aware of the meeting weekly, but we do meet monthly. So I will find out if there's another team that I'm missing, and I will get on that for sure. Thank you.
And thank you. Bye-bye.
Are there any other questions or comments for Dr. Millen?
I have a question, Martha. Sorry. I think I might not be on your screen.
Yep.
It's Liberty.
Thank you.
Robin, thank you. That was great. My one question is when you were talking about how, you know, if we have to pick and choose which standards from DESE we're going to be able to, you know, because there's so many of them. I'm just wondering how much of that is maybe driven by what's on the MCAS, or is it more like the MCAS and the people at DESE will focus their testing more on what we and other districts in the state kind of decide to focus, like which one of those kind of comes first?
So it depends, you know, obviously the MCAS is an accountability wheel, but it's not the only thing that you should be worried about. Really, districts have the role and responsibility to decide what is important within their own kind of avenues of that. I always say, like, and I'm stealing from somebody else, but you know, standards are kind of like the buildings, all the buildings of a town are all kind of overseen by one thing, and then, but all the kind of intricacies of the buildings in Wellfleet versus the buildings of Boston versus, it's really up to you, what you deem is important. And that often has to do with what transfer goals you want out of your graduate. And once you get your graduate and you understand what the role or the profile of the graduate is, you work yourself backwards and to find those important standards to go through. On top of that, though, I'm a standards-based educator, and we all are. We're public school educators, but there's also a lot of other assessment value that we should be looking at. And I worked last year very closely with the alternate assessments with the State Department of Ed through their Kaleidoscope program, and looking at some other assessments that we might be looking at instead of just MCAS. And how can we get that information and know that our students are learning on the standards in a more broad and diverse way. So know that that work is happening. So it's, I always say there's always like 3 points to it. It's what your community wants. It's the standards that are driven through accountability. And it's also what we value the outcome of our educators or as our students come out of school.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Dr. Millen, thank you so much. This is really informative, and you were very fast. So,
okay. Well, I have one more thing. I'm not done.
One more component to this.
I wish I would say I'm done, but Superintendent Clenchey also asked me to share with you a little bit about EISR and EISR3 funding, if you would so give me a few more minutes.
And in part, it's because this is, we're up against the clock in terms of timing with this. And so it's really critical that we come to our school committees in this cycle right now to talk about this. So I was kind of like tying through the time there, Robin, while you got yourself going on this. So thank you.
So EISR funding is the funding recovery monies that have been coming through the districts. And I'm sure you've had conversations over the last 18 months on that. So, but I do just want to kind of go back, and I know Director of Finance is here as well, so she can help me along. But if I go back, EISR3 funding is coming out, and Superintendent Clenchey is correct. We're on a timeline with that, but I will share kind of what we've done so far and then show you how we need to move forward. But the grants that have been coming into schools since the closure in March 2020 have been quite extensive. So right off the bat, we ended up getting a state grant, we got a remote learning technology grant, and we got a school meals grant. And these grants came out almost immediately. You know, they kind of came out in phases in the first couple of months of the pandemic. But up on the screen, you can see the grants for all the elementary schools, middle school, and high school. So the total amount of grants for those 3 funding sources and the dates in which they were expended or have to be expended by, and then also the use of the funds. So as you can imagine, when we first closed, like every other school across the world, I swear, had to do HVAC work. We had to get our personal protective equipment. We had to do upgrades to our technologies, get devices into hands of children, and then, you know, cleaning and paper products and all of those things just kind of bloomed. That started the whole CARES recovery grants and some of the monies that are coming into schools to help us kind of rebound originally, or at least come, you know, move forward in the funding sources. So in this timeline, you can see where we are today. So the state grant has passed, it's done, we've expended it. Federal grant will come up at the end of this month, just a few days. So Gio, you have a couple more days if there's money left in there. And then in September 2022, the EISR1 deadline will be. And then in September of 23, EISR2 will be a deadline. And then in September of 24, the current grant that's out there that I'm going to be talking about will have a deadline. Most of what you see in 1 and 2 has already been expended. And again, if I kind of go, actually, I wait on that. If I go, I'll show you a slide as to what that was expended upon. But the reason why we need to talk to you about EISR3 is because the requirements for us to get this funding are different than they were for EISR1 and 2. So we have different steps that we have to go through. So the first thing is that we had to publish publicly a return to safe in-person instruction. So the state, you know, has said everybody needs to be in person unless there's a, you know, medically fragile student, but we published that, we're done. We did the NASA return to school blueprint. It was put on the website, sent out to all the stakeholders in August of this summer. So we did that one. The second thing we needed to do was put a survey out to get input as to how the community felt we should spend the upcoming monies. And so that went out about a week ago Friday. So most of you have seen it. Okay, so we did that and we have had a huge amount of response. So I'll bring the data up in a few minutes. So the data that I took to make the slide, there was about 705 responses, which is a pretty strong response for a survey, any survey at school. If I see about 700 replies, that's good. We've had more since I created the slides, but they're staying in the same kind of number, so I didn't change the slides. Then the third thing we need to do is from that input, we have to create a plan and we need to publish that. And we have to show within that plan how the funds will be used to prevent like mitigation of the current like PPEs and all of that still to make sure that we stay in school. It will also we have to expend at least 20% of that to address the academic impact and what they're calling learning loss, but I don't like that, but they're calling it learning loss. We need to share how the district will address the academic, the emotional, and the mental health needs of our students, and especially those who are disproportionately impacted. And then we have to then send that out to everyone and get feedback on that plan. Inside that, we also have to include a stakeholder engagement plan to explain how we engage the stakeholder in building this plan, and we have to make a statement of equity as to how we did that. So part of the plans that go out, they're going out to like civil rights organizations. We've gotten them out to the NAACP and on the Cape. We've gone out to MLK Education Task Force, some of those, so that they can also help us with that maintenance of equity. So we're seeing and watching things from what I call a 365 equity lens. So here's the monies from 1 and 2. Again, most of it is already been expended. Total, from 1 to the district was about 252.5, and for 2 was about 1,000,002. Most of that went to those allowable uses that you see on the page. Really, a lot of that was just making sure we made it through remotes, that we got students back into school last year safely, that type of thing. So for Wellfleet, In particular, Wellfleet got about $105,000 of that ESSER 1 and 2 funding. And this is just kind of a general list that Giovanna and her team put together for us so that we could just see, like, outdoor resources is a huge thing. Like, moving classes outside required us to expend a lot of money on that. Summer programming, grant administration, mental health services, those things. So for ESSER 3, the district is anticipated to get about 2,500,000, 2,600,000. So you can see it's exponentially getting larger, the kind of bucket of funds, but the allowable uses are also getting bigger. So the federal government and the state is encouraging us not only to focus on recovery items, but also reimagining items. So we have learned a lot coming out of COVID, a lot of great things in education, which sounds kind of like a misnomer, like an oxymoron, but educators have learned to do and innovate and done things that in my career, I mean, my background is in innovation and education, and I didn't think we'd innovate as fast as we have over the last 18 months as we have. So what we're encouraging our educators to do is to keep those really good practices that we've learned really benefit children and start to reimagine. And the state and the federal government are allowing us to use some of these fundings for that as well. So it's not only recovery, it's also for current being in school now, but also in reimagining what comes next. So you can see on that list about 4 bullets down, like providing that acceleration of learning is on here as well. So the survey went out, and like I said, that at the time that I made these slides, about 718 responses. I think we're about 715. No shock as to who's responding. It pretty much goes by our demographics and about our things, about our populations. You will see here that we're not only hearing from, our 4 member towns, but we're also hearing from Truro and Provincetown and some of our school choice students as well, which is nice to see. In addition to our school community, the civil rights organizations, the survey also went out to all the town offices as well. So we're hearing from them as well. And then people were tweeting it out and pushing it out. I saw it broader and some other the networks as well. So we're hearing from a lot of people. So I don't know if there's too much of a surprise from the feedback we're getting, but I just share it to you so that when you start hearing these budget allocations and these plans, you understand why we're moving in this way. So one of the questions is, do you believe that there should be a critical priority for making sure our schools are safe and they're healthy and that we are making that mitigation and prevention of COVID-19? So again, kind of going back to the PPEs, the cleaning supplies, the paper, all of those things. And you can see people strongly agree with that as being a critical priority for the most part. Another question was, is it a critical priority to spend money on addressing the student loss of instruction and that unfinished learning? And again, nothing that would shock you. It's pretty much what you expect. About 73.4% of people say, yes, we need to get kids back to where they need to be and, address those challenges if they're there. This one here, though, is something that I think kind of triggers some flags for us as educators. So the critical priority for spending to address student social, emotional, and mental health needs. This one is coming out as one of the highest percentages between agree and strongly agree. And then there was a part in the survey that allowed you to put other in there, and many, many people continue to reiterate this. So it gives us an indication that caregivers and parents and guardians, they're concerned about the mental health and the social emotional impact that the pandemic has had on their children. So when you start seeing the plans, you'll start seeing us putting a little extra funding into coming up with some creative solutions or some supportive ways, and maybe some additional personnel that we can help support that. Director Buchanan, she is not speaking tonight, but if she comes to share with you, we put some funding into a program called Care Solace recently, which is a kind of a clearinghouse for families, caregivers, and teachers to use to get supports in social emotional supports, mental health supports, wellness supports. It's really just a clearinghouse to help get appointments, insurance, that type of thing. It's a privately run thing, but we're putting it through the schools. It will be a great resource. So looking for avenues, both with community partnerships and also within our schools, to make sure we're addressing this critical need. So I just bring this back to you because that's where we're at. And all of this has to be done by October 4th. So this plan, I saw Liberty's eyes just go. So we have to get this done in a very timely way. So the budgets and the administrative team have a working session tomorrow with me, and we'll be working on actually kind of identifying the numbers and some of those line items and the allowable funds. Then we'll be getting it back out to you by hopefully Friday, Monday at the latest for feedback from the community. The community came back on the input survey within a week. The majority of people got right on it. So I don't anticipate that's going to be a problem. Then we'll get it up and we'll get it published, and we'll make sure we do the engagement plan and the equity maintenance plan and apply for the monies.
Thank you. Excellent job. And good luck.
Thank you.
And we are now at the point, I think, where we can turn this over to Giovanna. And
Thank you.
actually, we don't really have anything for you to say.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
I have no report this month.
Okay, great.
Susan Waller is working on encumbering all the funds for the year. We'll have a report next month.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Thank you very much. And we have 2 policies to review for second reading. And I wonder, Betsy, do you have anything to add to these or to say at this point?
I do not.
Okay. Let's go to the, I have so many papers here. This is ridiculous, but why don't we talk about the harassment policy? I've lost the first page of that. Is there any discussion, any questions, any typos or anything else that anybody saw on this? Comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, would someone like to make a motion that we approve this as a second reading? Liberty, thank you. I read your lips, but I didn't hear you.
Sorry, I unmuted so fast. Motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second? Jill, thank you. And all of those in favor? All right, great.
Thank you.
Arlen, you have that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, and the second policy up for our approval, second reading again, is the student responsible use policy. Any questions or concerns about that one? Comments? Okay, seeing none, would someone like to make a motion on that one?
So moved, Jill.
Thank you, Jill. Betsy, thank you. And all those in favor?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we also need to talk about, first of all, our conference delegates. We have 1 delegate every year. Is that right, Jill?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 delegate, and then we also need to decide who is going to the conference. I believe we have funding for 2 people to go. It doesn't have to be the same 2 people, I don't think, every day. So first of all, is there anyone interested in being a delegate? That means after we have read and discussed the items on the delegation meeting, that person will go to the meeting on November 6th, I believe, and represent us. Is anyone interested in doing that this year? Ooh.
I could probably do it.
Didn't you do it last year?
It was virtual, but yeah, I did it. I did
Okay.
it. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
I'd be happy to do it.
All right, wonderful. I don't think we have to vote on that, Laura. There's no one running against you. Great, thanks so much.
So
And
but you'll like tell me more as it gets closer.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. I'll make sure that they know who you are and that you have your email address is correct. Thank you. And Mary Beth.
I just want to say last year, Laura, you did attend because you were the person that brought back Khalees Warnham to us.
That's right.
So bring back
Yes.
another good one.
Yes. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did. And then in terms of attending, is this actually an in-person meeting? Does anyone know that? I have no idea. Jill?
It appears to be at the moment that there will be a lot of in-person and possible remote options. Just a few comments I'd like to add while people ponder this.
Yes.
In the past, okay, first of all, schedules have not been posted yet as to what sort of workshops are being offered on what day. I think that would certainly make a difference for me on what days I would want to attend, or even partial days. So I'm not sure how hard and fast we want to make this. I do understand that there's two, payments, if you will. In the past, it's been honestly kind of flexible, where it would be under two people's names, but it could be possible that 3 school committee members would be interested in similar half days or whatever, and it's never been an issue. Nobody is checking off a name to attend a class, if that's understood. I would hate to limit ourselves, so if there were 3 or 4 of us that were really interested in attending, very typically, it seems like I'm the only one who would go to like all 3 days. But it's very unusual that there would be 2 people who would be doing all of it. So in other words, there's room for flexibility, or at least there used to be. What isn't flexible is we've got to put it under 2 people's names, since there's only money for 2 full enrollments, if you will, registrations.
Okay, and I wonder if that would be different anyway, if it's remote, because if we log on, we have our names. That's very confusing.
Yeah.
It may be that we can put this off till October, and if we need to send 2 names in before that, we'll send in definitely your name, Jill, and definitely Laura's name, since you both are, you have to be there, Laura, at some point. So I guess we can do that and then figure out whether or not we can share. If we're doing it by Zoom, maybe 2 of us can sit at the same computer. Brooke?
I think too that if we at least send in 2 names, we save money. I'm away from home now. I don't have the information in front of me, but there's some sort of savings to register by a certain time. So I think that's time sensitive to save like $300 or something.
I believe actually that we have already pre-registered the chair, the vice chair, just as placeholders.
Okay.
So I think you're fine to put this off a little bit as you see. Jill, I would totally agree with you. I do think if there's a session that a number of you or all of you want to go to, just let us know and let us give them a call and connect with MESC, because I'm sure that they would be more than happy to have more people go, if there's some specific sessions there that you'd like to attend. So just let us know. So let's wait and see what comes out once we get a greater specifics on it.
And I do have the delegate manual here. I don't know if everybody got these or not, but I do have it. So we can certainly take these up issue by issue at our next meeting and decide how to vote. If that makes sense to everybody. Thank you, Superintendent. That clears a lot up. And now reports and information, Cape Cod Collaborative.
There was a meeting on September 8th, and there were wonderful reports. One report was from Waypoint, the alternative high school, that they had a very successful opening. There has been, like everywhere, a lot of new staff. I mean, I worked at a school today that had like half of every single classroom teaching staff were new, and they were nervous. But anyhow, a lot of new staff. Part of it is just the way things have been everywhere. But another piece of it is Waypoint, the alternative high school, will be relocating in Yarmouth. Right now it's in Sandwich. So for some staff, it's going to be a big drive. So some people have opted out to continue teaching for Waypoint. On the other hand, Kara Peterson, the director of the program, said that she's hired 10 amazing new staff that's working out really well. As Brooke mentioned, transportation, which the collaborative does a lot of, there's been a profound shortage of drivers. They're working on more incentives for bus drivers. And it's highly competitive. We're going to probably at our next meeting approve of a raise for drivers, but it's been terribly difficult. And this has made an impact, or will make an impact, in a lot of athletic trips. It might be very prohibitive for sports programs, athletic after school, going to other schools and buses. Back to Waypoint, the alternative high school. I would love to visit. There's some new rooms that they've added to help the social emotional of the alternative high school people. So for instance, there's a new room called an energy room. So if people need to work off energy, if you will, they can use a treadmill, they can use like a rowing machine. Then there's the chill room, which has mostly soft lighting, relaxing aroma like lavender, soft music. So there's the chill room added now, and the energy room. Added to the staff for the alternative high school, there is a new art teacher, and what is very new is a culinary arts teacher, which has been very, very popular among the alternative high school students. Special projects continue with Dr. Bogdan, working with Bridgewater University, but specifically coursework for teachers that are progressing in their licensure for moderate or severe special needs. October 8th, the collaborative is putting on an all Cape in services professional development, and some of it will be online. The STAR program, which is the more or less the elementary school age children, Julia Bryant, the director, they have 2 new teachers that have been quite successful, specialty teachers, a music theater teacher, and in addition, a yoga teacher. The STAR program for the younger ones, they're exceeding the 51 projections that they thought they would have. On a final note, Truro, Provincetown, and sadly, Nauset Regional has not had representatives on the board meeting, so it's been suspended their right to vote for the moment. And those are the highlights.
Thank you, Jill. Well done. That's very encouraging news. All of it. Fantastic. Great. I'm so glad to hear that. And then on with reports. I've again. All right. Preschool enrollment, I think. Do we have that? Is it in our packet? I think it is. Yeah. Yeah, we
Yes,
have it
it
in
is.
our report. We're all set with that, I think. PTA liaison report. Any meetings, anything? Okay, and behavioral health task force, as far as I know, we have not met. If we have, I was not invited. School council. No report yet.
No, we meet at the end of the month.
Right. And Housing Task Force Committee, Betsy.
I'm not on that, but I happened to run into Jan Plowy the other day, and so she will be probably contacting you, Martha, to get on our agenda soon. Things are moving along, so
All right.
be glad to hear from her.
I can add one thing. There was a group of people who met, this was in the Independent, a group of neighbors of the housing project who met to say they really wanted to do everything they could to support the project, that they were very happy that the project was coming in. Just a really wonderful article written about them in the Independent this past week. So that was a breath of fresh air, which is kind of hard to say. And finally, future agenda items. I know that we have the Housing Task Force Committee speaking hopefully, and also a discussion about the MASC meeting in November. Are there any other things that people would like to discuss or talk about? Brooke.
You'll see us want to bring some of our directors to meetings we've kind of mapped out for the next couple of months, so that you hear from some of, our director of technology or the director of student services or whatnot. So you'll see us. I'll approach you, Martha, with whoever it is that's kind of signed up for that month.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And Jill?
Brooke, and I'm not sure, I can't remember if I've seen yet, the future joint school committee meetings. In the past, for time efficiencies, when there's been reports that affect all the school committees, that it's presentations have been given in the past at the joint school committees, so this joint school committee meeting, so that it's for time efficiencies for administrators as well, so that they don't have to give the same thing over and over again. I mean, I see advantages to all of it. It's really nice to have the small group, with the special reports, but it's just something to think about as far as presentations to joint school committee.
That's terrific, and that's a terrific approach. I was not aware of that, so we'll go back and do some rethinking and reorganizing on that. Thank you, Jill. I really appreciate that.
Well, your time is precious, and I know administrators how many meetings they have, and especially a superintendent.
For sure. Okay, well, I am sure that if there is anything that strikes you, you know where to find me. Just, shoot me a text or an email, and I'll add it to my list. And if you don't come up with anything, I'm sure between now and a month from now, Superintendent Clenchy and I will come up with things. We'll keep you busy for sure. I'd like to ask you to think about last month's meeting minutes. Were there any questions or comments, corrections that you'd like to make? And seeing none, would someone move to approve those minutes as read?
Jill, I move we approve the minutes as read.
Thank you, Jill. Laura? Okay, all those in favor?
Thank you.
And you saw Betsy signed off.
Yeah, she has another meeting. And then, a motion to adjourn. Laura?
I motion to adjourn.
Okay, okay. Jill second, thank you.
The lights on me in the lobby here.
Go to your room. All those in favor? I guess we don't have to do that, do we? Okay,
Yes.
all right. I adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night, everyone.
You too.
Yeah.